Another large-scale strike has kicked off, this time in the manufacturing sector. Protests at this moment are being held across the country, organised by the union spearheading that strike action, Numsa. Around 220,000 of its members were expected to down tools today, which is not even counting the other unions that are involved. Union Solidarity is not joining the strike, and it's opposed to a lockout announced by big employers in the steel and engineering sector that began this morning. It means that all workers striking or not will not be allowed into the affected factories. Now, government has once again called for the Numsa strike to be resolved quickly to avoid crippling an already weak economy. The platinum sector strike dragged this economy into contraction in the first quarter, and it's feared that another protracted strike could lead to another contraction. Well, let's get the latest. We cross live now to Lueta Motlekgelwa, SABC reporter, who's at a Numsa march in Johannesburg. And Lueta, I believe that there's a massive turnout. What's happening right now?
Well, Francis, yes, the turnout has been massive. There are thousands and thousands of Numsa workers here. I'll put the number roughly to between 4,000 and 5,000 members who are here. At this point in time, COSATU General Secretary Mr. Zolindi Mavadi has just finished addressing the workers along with the president of Numsa, Mr. Andrew Chua. They've actually just finished reading out the memorandum of their demands to their employers, and workers are now dispersing. They are now walking back. They're going to their respective places. The proceedings have just basically come to an end right here.
Lueta, do we have any idea how many workers have heeded the call to stay away, and if those lockouts preemptively announced by the companies are in full force across the country?
Yes, in terms of the lockout, most of the employers in the steel and engineering sector have announced that they will enforce a lockout rule, basically barring workers from entering into the workplace because of the strike. We're not sure at this point in time, because you'll understand that Numsa is actually holding these marches across six cities in 4 provinces. So at this point in time, what we do know is that Numsa members are not going to work. They are joined by several unions, about 4 other unions who also have basically given the notice to strike. There's only one union that is actually not striking at this point in time in the steel and metal industry, and that's Solidarity. They've actually managed yesterday to overturn a lockout clause for their members. So their members are allowed to report for work and to proceed working for the duration of the strike.
All right, so that was successful. Lueta, did you speak to workers today on the ground? Are they believing in the strike? Are they prepared for a possible long haul? Because they have, of course, just seen what happened in the platinum sector, and that dragged on for 5 months.
Yes, actually I did. I spoke to several workers this morning about their resolve and their intent in terms of staging this strike and fighting for their rights. And a lot of them, look, they are demanding a living wage. And I actually did put a question to them: what exactly is a living wage? And a lot of them say 6,500 is a living wage. So that's what they are fighting for. And they are also against labor broking. They say because of labor broking, there's a lot of exploitation at the workplace. And these are the issues that they want their leaders to basically address through this strike. They also want a 1-year agreement as opposed to a 3-year agreement. They say conditions change too rapidly, and if they're locked into a 3-year wage deal, they're not able to go back to the employer and demand more compensation depending on changes in their economic situation. But basically, workers here seem to be resolved to basically stay away from work as long as they can. During the address here, Mr. Zolindi Mavadi did say that they are not.
Lueta, I'm going to stop you there because the line is not great. That was SABC reporter Lueta Motlekgelwa coming to us live from Johannesburg. And interesting that the workers only want a 1-year agreement. I'm sure that the employers will push for at least a 3-year for stability in the sector, because of course that prevents strikes next year. So from Gauteng to the Eastern Cape now, reporter Olwetu Sota is with Numsa marches in East London. Olwetu, what's the turnout been like there?
Thank you, Francis. We are outside the Labour offices in East London, where the Numsa members are here to hand over their memorandum to the Department of Labour. However, I can tell you that we also spoke to the Boracay Business Chamber, which said the strike is bound to have an impact on the economy of the Eastern Cape if it persists, not immediately, but if they continue with the strike, it will have an impact on the economy. Earlier on, Mercedes-Benz South Africa, which is a car manufacturing company that is based in East London, also issued a statement saying that they are not yet affected by this, the Numsa strike, but however, the component companies are on strike, and should it continue for a long time, they will also be affected, but they have prepared in time. They do have the necessary parts to continue producing cars. Francis.
Olwethu, just give us some more. As you rightly say, East London home to Mercedes-Benz, which is not affected, but the concern now is these components factories. Do we know how long it will take for those components to dry up, which then affects the big car manufacturers?
At this stage, Francis, we haven't had time to talk to the people representing the component companies. However, it is quite a number of them that are affected in East London, as we have over 1,000 workers that are participating in this march today. However, as the march continues, we're bound to see more people joining in. They're also saying that they're calling on the automotive industry to be in solidarity should the employers not give them their demands.
Thank you very much, Olwethu Sota, who is with the marchers in the Eastern Cape. Now, we did see a local gauge of manufacturing come out. South Africa's manufacturing sector continues to struggle in the midst of these tough economic conditions. The Kagiso Purchasing Managers Index, gauging the health of the sector, is below the key 50 points for a third consecutive month. Now, anything below 50 suggests contraction. It ticked up slightly to 46.6 points in June, from just above 43 the previous month.
The manufacturing sector feeling the pinch of domestic economic ills, dragged down by labour strikes and the low demand for goods. The new sales orders and the business activity sub-indices were under pressure, while the main driver in the slight uptick is the employment sub-index, but Kagiso says it's nothing to celebrate.
The absolute level of the PMI is better this month than the previous month, and I think that's due to the normalization of the employment sub-index. And I think one should be cautious to read too much in it, so that does not mean that there's all of a sudden a lot of employment creating in the manufacturing sector, because employment sub-index is still below 50, which is indicative of job losses in the manufacturing sector.
Economists say the performance of the manufacturing sector is impacted by both domestic and global factors, while the rand too has not been helpful.
The platinum sector strike in the allied mining industry has had significant negative impacts on the manufacturing sector and has exacerbated the effects of the slowing domestic demand environment. In terms of external considerations, the weaker rand is yet to produce a meaningful boost in export growth, and rather this suggests that levels of foreign demand are key determinants of the performance of our manufacturing sector. And we had a sluggish start in economic activity in both China and the Eurozone, which are key export destinations for South Africa.
Going forward, there is hope for export growth as advanced economies improve, but economists warn this is dependent on key sectors remaining stable. Gloria Stefako, SABC News, Johannesburg.